Hello everyone, my name is Awot, and today I will be continuing mod development in Awot's otherworldly maps under the series name of Coding Chronicles. Coding Chronicles is essentially what Development Diaries was, just with a slightly less confusing name so people do not mistake me for a developer or anything like that, because I have zero affiliation with Age of Empires in any way, shape, or form. I'm just a random unemployed bum who's learning coding exclusively through Age of Mythology while I try to find my next job. I hope that my crappy unofficial content can help satiate the average Age of Mythology player's appetite while we wait through the great drought of 2026, content being in the form of both my custom skirmish maps mod and content in the sense that I make videos about my learning process that will hopefully be somewhat of an enjoyable watch for Age of Mythology players as I learn how to code. Since as a healthcare worker, coding wasn't that big part of my curriculum, and I literally didn't know much before I started picking up the game and messing with it. And hopefully the content is different enough from all the competitive play, since I am otherwise a pretty non-competitive player. Anyways, on today's list is the things I mentioned in the previous video. If you didn't watch the previous video, I don't blame you. I can be pretty boring sometimes, so I'll just briefly summarize what I said. I am going to start learning how to make triggers to spice up my maps a little bit more. I'll have to learn triggers because I'm planning on making a map that is similar to Ironwood, but after 10 minutes it burns the center down so that you all can greet each other. This map has been highly requested by a lot of people, but most importantly, a few close friends of mine really said they would love to see a map like that. On top of that, I found out triggers can be used to enhance some other gameplay elements, although I will not be trying to change the core gameplay elements too much, as I know a lot of the people who use my mod just want more environments to play the normal game in and don't want to modify standard play too much. I hope a few subtle changes can keep the core gameplay intact for the most part, but bring out a new flavor in some of the maps. And then the next important thing on my list is that I'm remaking Awot Unknown from scratch. Since the previous iteration, the original iteration that is available online right now, was just not satisfactory to my modern standards anymore. As I've gotten better at map making, I've definitely improved a lot, and while Awot Unknown holds a special place in my heart for being my first special project, I have to admit the thing is held entirely together by coin flips and glue, and while playing on it I do notice some weird oddities sometimes. So by remaking it from scratch, I remove a lot of the limitations that were previously placed by how the old system was structured, and allow for myself to do much more funky things. Hopefully I'll get a lot more terrain randomization added to the map to the point that I might actually be able to compete with the Unknown, the original map that this map is based off of and inspired by. And I will probably be able to implement my sub-biomes feature. Like currently in Awot Unknown, all grass biomes are merged into one generic grass biome. All assets are shared, so sometimes you might get snowy Norse grass with an alpaca, since Aztec and Norse assets are all just merged into one grassland biome. With the new implementation, I'll be able to separate them and have them thematically, change and theme themselves accordingly, and a bunch of other refinements that will hopefully make the maps look overall better and more random. Since the whole point of Awot Unknown is for you to not know what you're going to get. You may notice that a lot of the work done on Awot Unknown may look similar to Awot Select. That will be intentional since for the most part Awot Select is supposed to be a more lore-driven version of Awot Unknown where you can manipulate what biome you get by changing the player 2 slot, while Awot Unknown frees you of having to play a specific character and will just give you a random biome you won't know what you get each time. But yeah, besides that, you can expect me to start working on new maps and improving old ones as usual. Before each update, I like to do that of course, with the new knowledge I get so that they're not limited to my previous knowledges. Although I gotta admit that the more maps I make, the higher the maintenance goes. And so I'm afraid that, if there's too much maintenance, I will feel discouraged to make new maps. Which also, another note is I'll try to work on this less. Last time when I worked on the mod, that period briefly took over my entire channel and I was doing nothing but working on it, which actually resulted in me burning out, which you may have noticed if you watched some of the previous videos. I said I was burnt out and playing other games in the meanwhile and playing less Age of Mythology, and only recently did I get popped back on Age of Mythology. So to prevent that burnout from happening again, I'll be trying to pace out the rate at which I work in my mod. Personally speaking, of course, I gotta focus on finding a job, but then also I will try to make one video about the mod and one video not related to the mod. This way I can take a break without having to constantly work on the mod so that I have enough content for the next video. Since I know some of you actually kind of dislike me talking about my mod since you guys are only here for official content, and it feels like a constant plug when I talk about my mod, and I completely get that. But yeah, with that out of the way, let me show you guys what I learned to do with triggers. So previously, there have been some trigger usage in my maps, but not too much. Nomad works the way it does because of triggers. And then there are triggers used in Ubinopolis to give the walls that Greek look. Otherwise they would just be wooden walls. And then there is a trigger used on Butterfly Lake to prevent the middle town center from spawning units from Mother Nature. And that's actually it. That's the most extent I've used triggers so far. Most of these are actually parsed from existing game files. So I think the code to prevent units from spawning from Mother Nature and Butterfly Lake is actually a code borrowed from Nomad. And then of course from my Nomad maps, I borrowed a lot of code from Nomad, their triggers. And the Ubinopolis trigger to give it the wall upgrade is actually the arena wall upgrade. But I took it, instead of applying to each player, it applied to specifically the Mother Nature team so that everybody else would still have to pay for walls, but the Mother Nature would have that Greek look around it. Anyway, when I used these codes, I was like, dang, these look complex, and they look like a different language from RMS completely. So I was kind of hesitant to learn them. I knew you could make them in a specific scenario, like there was a built-in editor for them, but the whole purpose of random map scripts is that they aren't scenarios, they're different each time. But only recently did I find out you can just export them. Wow, I feel so silly. There's been so many moments like this in my map making career where I have this massive problem and it turns out the solution is just so simple. But yeah, I'm going to show an example on screen here. So here's the chicken in the middle of Awot split. In case you guys didn't know, there's an evil chicken that lives in the mountain, and now I want to buff him and actually give him a name. So using a handful of triggers, I was able to do exactly that in this scenario version of Awot split. You know, like you go in the editor and you just generate a specific generation of it, and it becomes a scenario. And now that I know these triggers work while I'm testing it, I can just export the triggers into the code of the map, and each match from now on, the chicken will be called the Lord of the Mountain, and you won't be able to kill your tornado anymore. And I can do a lot of other funny things like this. So I can make the Pillar of Atlas on Pillar of Atlas actually be called the Pillar of Atlas now. Also make it indestructible, although it kind of already is hardly destructible. You need a lot of time and dedication to kill it. I'm 50-50 on that one. Let me know you guys would like it to remain destructible. And then another thing is I found how to make nature enemies no longer follow you. So in case you guys remember the original versions of Awot's otherworldly maps, there are a lot of enemies that were nature team that I put just for giggles. But the problem is they would chase your scout across the map, and they would just follow him until he died, and they would just follow the next thing they aggroed on first. It was a rudimentary system, and you could just like raid your opponent's base by having them all aggro on your scout and then delete your scout in your opponent's base. Well, I found out that if you have a predator like Serpent Predator or Hades Predator, those annoying guys, and you replace them with one of those creatures, they'll inherit the stats of whatever creature I want, but they'll still have the behavior where they will stop aggroing you after a certain amount of distance and return to their position, so you can't just dive all of them into your enemy's base. So this is great. I can make the berries on 6% not follow you anymore, even though they were already practically harmless. I can also give you a reward for killing them. I can make them drop like 5 food, 5 wood as a reward for killing each one. That sounds fun. I'm going to be trying to take this a step further and see if I could have new huntables. Like, I'd rather be a horse in the game, so I'm going to see if I can make the horse into a huntable in the map to add more variety. But I know already that, of course, I'm going to make the berries not follow you. I'm going to try and see if I can add Kappa to Fair Etter, and then if you kill them, you get some favor, early game favor. Since, that map already gives you a decent amount of favor just by existing and taking your forward TC. And yeah, that'll be a way to add Kappa into my maps. My map started off as a way to use the unused assets, and the Kappa aren't usable by anyone in the Japanese pantheon outside the campaign. You can see them if you use the swamp power, but that's about it. You can't use the actual unit that appears in the campaign alongside the Tanuki. I'm gonna see how I can incorporate these into my maps, but right now this is all I've learned so far since I've been a little busy, and I just want to show you guys the progress. And then on top of this, I've also been working on Awot Unknown. So with the new formula for Awot Unknown, I have so much more control over each biome than I had before. Like I previously said, all grass biomes was just kind of merged into one, so you had to have one grass biome that randomly had assets of all biomes. So for example, the Greek grasslands and the Norse grasslands have separate biomes now, and I'm able to control little details. So unfortunately, I've been getting too carried away with playing with the little details of each biome that it's taking me really long to implement each biome in my current system. But I hope it's worth it when you guys play, and you guys can see that love was added to each individual biome despite there being so many. So in the background right now, it should be footage of me like reloading the map. Yeah, there's a keyboard command you can add to your game that just automatically reloads your map with different seed. I actually didn't know how to do this until very recently. I feel kind of ashamed. Just like with the trigger thing, I didn't know this whole time. So it goes to show there's a lot of things you can still learn, even when you've been at it for a while. But yeah, each time you see it regenerate, it's a new seed, so it'll have one of the biomes I've implemented so far. Unfortunately, the biome list is limited right now. I'll list it on screen. There should only be like 10 biomes right now. I believe I did 2 grasslands just to set the tempo, get a feel for my new system, how I should tweak it. Then I worked on adding underworld and desert because those have a lot of specific code to add more details to those ones specifically. For example, the underworld biome needs extra code to spawn the little evil red chickens that we're used to instead of the normal chickens. And then of course on the lava version of the underworld, I had to make a code that prevents berries from spawning in that version of the map. Oh, and one thing you'll notice that I'm doing here is I'm no longer trying to have all biomes be equal. If a biome has a slightly different gameplay tempo to it, then so be it. It's not going to be like Awot Select or Awot Split where they have built-in factors to keep them on equal terms. If a biome, such as the Aztec biomes, don't really have a reactive hunt, which is a hunt that fights back when you shoot it, excluding boars, by the way. I don't use boars for pigs on any of my maps. This is a personal beef I have stemming all the way back to like early 2000s Minecraft. Don't inquire about my beef with pigs. But anyways, if a biome doesn't have any sort of reactive hunt, then it's not. You're just gonna have an easy time hunting. But if there's a biome with tons of reactive hunt, such as the marsh biome, which have hippopotamus, aurochs, and water buffalo, then you're gonna have to be, in the time of your life, protecting your villagers, making sure they don't die from reactive hunt. On Awot Select, I tried to equalize the food, so that's usually consistent across all biomes. Not doing that here. Not at all. Hopefully this adds even more of an unknown dynamic, as in like you don't know what you're going to get to the gameplay. But yeah, just know this was done on purpose and not laziness. Because you guys know I can do it as literally done on Awot Select already, so I just feel like this would be more random. Originally on Awot Unknown, I did have plans to make the food on this map completely raw and random for all pools. I don't really know how to explain it, so I'm not, but basically the TLDR, which is too long, didn't read. I've constricted just a few tiny things, but I'm sure 99.9% of players won't even notice I did this, and it made the file size a lot more bearable and compact. Now, me, of course, I'm gonna notice this. I'm gonna be a little sad when I notice it, but hopefully for 99% of players, you'll be like, won't even notice it. Because even though this makes things like 2% less random, it saved 20% of the file size. I think that's definitely a worthwhile trade. But yeah, literally, you know, I've been working on it a lot. These few biomes is all I have to show right now. I'll put a list on screen of biomes I have currently planned. Let me know if I'm missing anything. I should just start like scrolling. But yeah, there's no terrain randomization yet at all whatsoever. So I put one cliff and one pond per player just so I can see what the ponds and cliffs look like when I finish programming a biome. But yeah, as the biome screen list that I should be editing on screen now later goes through, let me know if I miss any biomes you'd like to see. But yeah, I'm just moving really slow right now, trying to make sure each biome has all the details and lighting and other things I want on it before I move on to terrain randomization. But the terrain randomization this time around, I'm going to be hopefully very ambitious about it. Some of the stuff I haven't even done in my normal maps, so that's going to require me to learn some new things for it. So hopefully this thing turns out as exciting as I have in my head. Of course, though, realistically, I don't think it'll be as exciting as I visualize, for the fact that it's like when you work on something for so long and you know exactly how its inner workings work, it's not as special as the one like playing it, if that makes sense. So while it might not be as special for me, I hope it ends up special for you guys. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just going off on a crazy tangent here, but that's all I have to show today. I've been working on it quite a bit. I've also been making sure to actually enjoy the game in between this time, you know, take breaks. I've been playing with my friends a lot. I've been playing a lot of vanilla maps as of late to not only base myself and how they look and what kind of guidelines they follow, but just to enjoy them again. Because, you know, even though I make a mod for more skirmish maps, I don't hate on the originals. If anything, I still love the originals a lot. And lately, I've been enjoying Obsidian Ridge so much. I love that map. It's just so weird. You can do a lot of weird things and still get away with it because your town centers are so defensively placed. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully it made sense, some of it, maybe. And have a great day as usual.